All right, we're going to dive right into it. Welcome, everyone. This is the experimental animation information session for fall of 2023. I think I'm right on my year. I will be corrected if I'm not. Everything's blending together these days. I am currently outside in front of this beautiful wall, but hopefully it doesn't rain on me as we go, but we'll find out. And I want to welcome everyone here. Basically, this is going to be a info session about our amazing experimental animation track, and then we're going to talk a lot about portfolio requirements and all of those fun dates and days that are coming up. And at the very end of this session, we will have plenty of time for Q&A, and this will be recorded, and we will be posting this on a web link that's at the end of the slideshow that I will give you shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I only have one monitor here, so I apologize. I do have our amazing advising team. If something does come up, maybe they can just kind of point me into the right direction during Q&A time. So let's dive right into it. So I'm going to kind of close some of my windows here. Sorry, force of habit. All right, like I mentioned, this is experimental animation. Welcome. We're really happy to have you here. You're most likely in this session because you have yet to apply to the experimental animation program. Your plan may be for applying this spring of 2024, or maybe you're early on and you're looking a couple years ahead and you're looking to apply in a few more years. And we're going to talk all about that. My name is Matt Nombrowski. I am an assistant director of the School of Visual Arts and Design, associate professor of emerging media. I am also experimental animation area coordinator. So anytime you see the letters EA, that's essentially kind of our shortcut. We are not making Madden football. It's just a little easier to say than experimental animation. My research revolves at Limitless Solutions, where we create 3D printed bionic arms for kids that are expressive and fun, and we make video games. And so I'm very fortunate to get to do a lot of creative things, as well as work and teach our amazing experimental animation students. So here are a few of those students. This is our senior graduating class from last year during our opening BFA exhibition. I'm right there. We're right there in the middle, hiding. All right, so a lot of you are curious about what is experimental animation, what is the difference between experimental animation and character animation, and even graphic design. So we're going to talk a little bit about what our program is, and more importantly, maybe what it isn't. So last year, we had over 170 applications, which was one of our biggest years yet for the experimental animation track. And every year we offer around 90 spots to students to enter our track, which is essentially a junior class and a senior class, both of about 90 students. So we're really excited to accept those students. They've been doing a great job this fall semester, and we're looking forward to what they produce. Experimental animation focuses on individualized study and individualized style. Now, students in this track will get kind of a sampling of all different types of art forms and mediums, and everywhere in between, different types of visualizations and whatnot. But the goal is that we are creating not just technicians, not just teaching you software, but having you strategically approach the artistic side of the industry as well as the professional side of the industry too. We want you to be able to get jobs. And so we focus a lot on professional development, as well as giving you a sample of being able to do all different types of mediums of digital art as you go. And we will be providing this slideshow link as well, so you'll have access to some of the different links and whatnot as we go. So believe it or not, experimental animation track is the oldest track at UCF. We've been around for over 30 years, which is pretty amazing. 30 years doesn't seem too far away for myself, but for a lot of people, a lot of you are under 30 years old. So again, you have an opportunity to explore various types of digital art. You're not limited to a single output like 3D or 2D. And as you become a senior in our program, you can kind of start to specialize in the area of interest that you want to seek as a professional. All right. So I like to call the Triforce of experimental animation. Like I mentioned before, we focus on art, the theory behind the art, the why you create what you create, We, talk to you a little bit about different technical approaches and workflows and production styles. And then we focus a lot on professional development, because you can be the best artist in the world and the best button pusher in the world, but in the end, if you don't have those professional skills, it's going to be really a struggle for you to get a job in our industry. We are in such a highly competitive industry. So all three of these factors are weighted equally when it comes to creating your future success. As I mentioned, you get a little bit of a sampler platter here. So we do 3D visualization, 2D animation, stop motion, VFX, 3D animation, pre-production. You will get a chance to cover all of those different mediums in this specific track if you choose to apply and enter it. So I like to tell students this is a marathon, not a sprint. I know a lot of you are really excited about entering this track, but take your time, cherish your classes that you're in. A lot of students are so determined to kind of get to the senior year of college, they forget to kind of experience everything that comes before it. And remember that, take your time in your classes, build that portfolio, build that resume. You're never going to have times like this again in your lives and careers to be able to kind of focus on the art that you want to create as you create it. So a couple of misconceptions with our track. One big misconception is, again, how do we differ from character animation? And so a lot of students see character animation and assume, okay, well, they must be the same thing. Now, where we do share similar kind of core classes like Intro to Animation, Intermediate Animation, character animation focuses on a singular group production over a 2-year period. We do not focus on that. So our classes are not all kind of threaded together by a singular group production. We have one class in which we do group production, but that's not till senior year, last semester. We focus solely on individual work for the most part and individual outcomes. Another big misconception is students who maybe want to just focus on 2D or just focus on 3D. And I often hear experimental is a 2D animation program where character is a 3D animation program. That's simply not true. A lot of our students, out of the 90, I can talk about the ones we have right now that are seniors. I would say it's about, a mixed bag of who focuses on 2D, 3D, who focuses on stop motion. It's a pretty even distribution of students kind of looking to work on different things. Now, even our students that focus on 2D animation still have to take the 3D modeling classes. They still have to take all of that good stuff. Another misconception, we are a cohort, which we're going to talk a little bit about. So when you get into the track, you will be involved with a group of 90 or 89 other students that you'll be able to kind of go through this experience together with. And the course sequencing is very important. We have courses that build off of one another from fall to spring. And so trying to take classes out of sync tends to be very difficult to have a timely graduation. We always recommend to students to kind of remember this is not a part-time program. I never suggest that you don't have jobs and things like that. I feel that you probably should have jobs and things like that. But just understand it is a lot of work. It's going to involve at least 40 hours a week for you of classwork every single week in this particular track. And the same is really for character animation and graphic design as well. You're looking at, if you take a full course load of 4 to 5 classes, you can run between 40 to 50 hours of work a week. And that's a standard kind of at UCF. So again, students ask all the time, I can be overridden into any course. Well, the good news is once you enter the experimental animation track and you have passed portfolio review, you can be guaranteed spots in our program and in specific core classes. With that said, just please realize that the times of the classes that you may want to take that are convenient to you may not always be available. So that's the little caveat there. But there will always be a spot in one of the classes or one of the sections offered. We will do our best to get you in it. All right. Again, you have 2 years, especially to kind of focus on your individual area of study. We will take a lot of courses in the first year, your junior year, when you enter the track, which would be fall and spring of 24 and spring of 25 next year. in which you're going to learn you're going to learn all sorts of things, 2D animation, visual effects, you're going to dabble in some stop motion, all sorts of fun stuff. And again, you'll have a chance to be a part of an academic cohort of like-minded individuals, which can creatively inspire you and push you to kind of new heights of creativity. Ultimately, the great thing about being such an old program or old track is that you join a vast network of alumni from this track in which you can connect with on LinkedIn and then further your future career opportunities. So to be successful in this track, students typically have access to their own hardware and software outside of the classroom setting. We find that students that have access to a desktop or a laptop tend to do a lot of work in their free time, and it allows them to kind of balance things and they're not so dependent to the labs. So we strongly recommend that. They typically have strong communication skills, have a passion for creativity and learning. They're creative problem solvers. And more importantly, they demonstrate professionalism and maturity. So this is a field in which you are going to be on tight production-based deadlines that, you know, if you're not very deadline oriented, this may not be the track or the field for you. And students who also are kind of surprised because it's a very critical field. There's lots of artistic critique. There's lots of critical analysis of your work and your progress and suggestions and changes. So that can be a little overwhelming for some folks too. All things you want to consider when applying and choosing the track of your choice. What we cover and what our students end up doing, I've mentioned this in a couple slides ago, but 3D modelers, animators, 3D animators, stop motion fabricators, game art. We have students who go work on video games, digital effects for movies and television, motion graphics, and then even some traditional and experimental type of animations. We've had students do it all. They're not focused just in film. They're not focused in one style in particular. I mean, we've had students work for a kind of a theme of the season, but the intro sequences to American Horror Story, which is a TV show on FX. One of our far away alumni is the art director for those and creates those, which is kind of fun. Again, all different fields that our students enter. And so we kind of give you, like I mentioned, a survey of skill sets that will help you be successful in where you choose to focus. All right. Our alumni have worked lots of different places: Walt Disney, Universal Creative, Titmouse, Sony Imageworks, Warner Brothers. We actually had a student who was a senior last year get a job when they were a student, a full-time job at Warner Brothers Animation, which was pretty cool. So again, a lot of our students are out there in the field, which just like makes us so proud to support them, but also that they're, you know, so much of the alumni are willing to give back to all of you. So when we have classes in professional development, we'll have them come in as guest speakers and we'll virtually Zoom them in, and, you know, they'll share their journey and their experience and, you know, hopefully guide yours. So as I mentioned, you will be in a cohort. So we accept 90 students per portfolio review. So this spring, we will have a group of students who apply for eligibility of entry in the track, and we will select 90 of those students to be part of the fall 2024 junior cohort. This year's juniors will become next year's seniors, obviously, and there's about 90 of them as well. And so you're going to kind of be moving in a group of people over the next 2 years to share your experience with. The first year of our track is focused a lot on diversity, foundations, different styles. You're going to learn 2D animation, hand-drawn animation, Toon Boom. You're going to learn in the spring semester, you're going to learn a lot about 3D modeling and 3D animation and all sorts of fun stuff. And then the second year is where students really pick a specialization or a niche and focus on that throughout a few different classes, which is really exciting. And they develop something called a thesis. So anyone who gains entry with the 2024 spring portfolio will start in fall of 2024, and they will go toward the hopeful graduation date of 2026. So just a couple of the classes that we offer each year, just to show you that diversity. Again, we will provide this slide link in the chat in a few minutes, but you can kind of read over these because obviously we're going to have a lot of time about portfolios, and we want to leave some time for question and answers. So I've gone ahead and given breakdowns for each of these courses in which you will take. And this is the suggested path we ask each student who's accepted into the track to go with. You can see lots of different things. Year 2, you're focusing on some motion design. You're focusing on your thesis, which is going to be kind of your final product that you create in the track. And, dabbling in some visual effects and compositing, which is fun too. So again, course descriptions, we will get this. And actually, Wahida, if you would possibly be able to paste this into the chat, that would be wonderful. So our ultimate goal is to create what's called a BFA capstone. And so in the fall semester of your senior year, you're going to create a 2 to 4 minute, essentially short film or short animation that sums up the style that you have chosen. So again, it could be 3D animation, motion design, 3D modeling and visualization fly-throughs. It can be a lot of different fun stuff. This is a essentially exit requirement for students to create. So they create this in the fall semester, and then we have a class in the spring semester called thesis, in which we exhibit this in the UCF Art Gallery, and we get to celebrate your work and all 2 years of hard work and preparation that you made. In our spring semester, we'll also develop tons of job application materials and prepare you for kind of those next professional steps. So here are a few different kind of past senior exhibitions. I recommend you look out for this coming up April's exhibition, which is going to be our current group of seniors in the fall semester. Next year, they're going to kind of put on an art show. This is a really great place to kind of find what students are doing. A lot of this work is also accessible on the SVAD YouTube page. So you can kind of go back and look at these different kind of, collections of artworks from former classes. So here's what that exhibition looks like in the art gallery. You can see all different types of work from kind of narrative sculpture to students. These students were looking into going into theme park design. We have some concept artists. We have some 3D modelers. There's a little bit for everyone. There's a stop motion set there in the background. So electives, we always suggest that anytime a student enters the track, they take electives based on what they're interested in. So if you're interested in sculpture, and you want to work for Disney or Universal in the theme parks, take a lot of sculpture classes like narrative sculpture or sculpture, intermediate sculpture, advanced sculpture. If you're interested in 3D modeling, take classes like Look Modeling Workshop and Geomodeling Workshop. Align those elective art classes to match up with your future goals. And that's a really important thing. By the time you leave this track, we want each student to have a pretty good idea of what they like, and more importantly, what you don't like, because you're going to be working in this field for over 40 years. And, it sounds like a lot, but it's true. And you want to make sure you love what you do. So knowing kind of what you don't like and what you like is going to be a great thing to take away from this program. So I've listed some electives in here for all of you to kind of consider and think about as you move forward. So kind of switching gears, I do want to kind of talk briefly about the people that you will be working with in the track, as well as other animators and other emerging media professors that we have. The way I look at it as, even if I'm not your teacher, you're still an SVAD student, and that means we are happy to support, advise, mentor you in any way which we can. So again, knowing what these people do and their specializations is a really, really important part of your journey. And so here is a list of all our amazing faculty members. I think we have a few here in the room. I can't really see the chat or anything. I saw Damien pop in. Hi, Damien. So we have Joanne Adams. Joanne Adams is awesome. She actually worked on The Little Mermaid back in the day at Disney, which is pretty darn cool. Joanne, I put her areas of research and focus here. If you see somebody that stands out to you, feel free to email them and reach out. Ask them questions about their professional journey. You never know where you're going to find your next mentor. Michael Cabrera is one of the lecturers in experimental animation. He focuses a lot on the stop motion classes, as well as procedural animation and live action and CGI integration. So Michael is somebody you're going to see quite a bit if you get into the track. We have visiting lecturer James Chambliss. James is kind of our core person. What do I mean by that? James teaches the 2D intro to animation classes, 2D Toon Boom, Adobe Animate, that kind of stuff. And then in the spring semester, he's focusing on those intermediate animation classes as well. And then I think one or two of those may be Damien's too. Christina Christie works on character rigging, hair cloth simulation, and rendering. She's a faculty member over in the character animation track, but again, a great resource for all students who are interested in these things. Myself, I mentioned I work with Limitless Solutions. I do professionally, before I was in the profession of academia, I worked for companies where I did Jumbotrons. I worked for the Orlando Magic, Walt Disney, tons of different companies doing After Effects and motion graphics work. I also did a lot of 3D visualization. So feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in any of that. Demetrius Dukes in the character animation track focuses on game development. He focuses on motion capture, virtual reality development. Again, awesome human. Marcio Conclaves. Marcio, if you're on the call and I butchered the name, I apologize. But he is one of our newest faculty members, and he's brilliant at 3D animation production. He's actually so good at 3D animation, he just got accepted at a huge conference for Autodesk, who makes Maya and 3D Studio Max, to put on 2 workshops. So we're really excited to have him. He's one of the world leaders in 3D animation and production. So awesome human as well. KJ Matheson, concept art, film festivals, 3D animation, and another amazing resource for students to work out on. Stella Sung, doing composing and cinematic music, which is kind of, she really brings this kind of alternative beyond animation experience to our track. So again, if you're interested in music and writing and composing, Stella's the person definitely to talk to. And then there's Damien. Damien does 3D visualization. He's an awesome modeler. Damien, I got to get your email up here, man. I apologize. But it's just his name, his first name dot last name at ucf.edu. So if you're looking to contact Damien, he does some amazing 3D models. I've been looking at LinkedIn all over. I see students from his class posting their work, and it's just fantastic. So thank you, Damien. All right, now kind of shifting gears, that's the faculty. We're going to talk a little bit about investing in yourself. So before you kind of choose a degree or a track, you want to think about what resources you need to be successful. And hardware is one of those resources. So I recommend that all students look into having some sort of off-campus use or access to a desktop or a laptop. We personally recommend PC computers, NVIDIA graphics cards. Having a Wacom tablet or a drawing tablet definitely will help you in certain classes. And we want you to also note that please avoid tablet-based computers like Surfaces or just an iPad. They typically don't have the processing power to do what we're doing in both 2D and 3D animation. So again, just another thing, we've had many students with these tablet computers, which look cool on the commercials, but end up not being able to handle kind of the rigor that you're going to put it in. And investing in something early on is really great. Think about it as a potential way to make your life more stress-free. As you go through your classes, you have access to hardware and software, obviously, on campus, but then you'll be able to work at home a little bit too to kind of diversify your work. These are some of the softwares we use. We use Autodesk Maya, Toon Boom, Adobe Creative Cloud, and the Substance Suite. The great thing is Autodesk Maya is completely free for students. So is the Substance Suite software. Adobe Creative Cloud is a paid price, as well as Toon Boom. And I've gone ahead and just put what today's costs roughly are. And this is subject to change. Obviously, I don't control these companies, but something that you're looking in investing. Now, what you will find is we don't really assign textbooks. So where you may be saying, oh, geez, that seems like a lot of money, you will most likely not have a ton of textbook costs. We do in classes like stop motion, for instance, try to provide materials and supplies based off of fees that you pay already on your tuition to kind of help support that. So this is really the big cost that you may be looking at coming into this track. Just different spaces. I'm going to kind of breeze through these to kind of get to the fun portfolio stuff. But you're going to see we have different types of lab spaces. We just got a Glowforge laser cutter, which is really cool. This is an older picture, but we have tons of new Cintiq tablets. So every lab essentially has access to either a full large Cintiq, I think a 24-inch Cintiq, or a companion Cintiq in which you can draw with a secondary monitor. This is our Mac lab. This is kind of an open space in which you'll do things like narrative sculpture and maybe some illustration classes, all in the visual arts building here. We're located, again, on main campus at UCF. And then this is our brand new edition. You can see we got these really cool curved monitors, and there's these Cintiqs. They're kind of hard to see because they're kind of tilted down, but we got Cintiq tablets for every single computer, which has been really nice. We even have our own stop motion space with tons of lighting, green screen, camera equipment, all sorts of fun things. So kind of shifting gears again, I talked to you about the staff, and faculty and staff are great. Faculty can talk to you a lot about your professional career path. They can talk to you about class assignments. But when it comes to how do you graduate on time, what credit do I need to take when? What do I have remaining? What grades do I need to pass a specific class to get to a specific point in my academic career? These are the amazing folks in SVAD advising that you want to talk to. And so I'm going to kind of, and if Wahida, if you're okay with this, maybe turn it over to you. And if you want to say a few words about advising, we can do that.
Sure, Matt. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just needed a moment to breathe. Thank you.
I was wondering when you were going to stop. No. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say welcome. Your SVAD advising team is here to assist. Please email SVAD advising if you need an appointment to come in and see us. Registration is starting, in a week or two. So come in and see us now so that you can get your schedules together and we can check your courses to make sure you're available, you're ready to submit portfolio if you are in the spring. So I would say definitely come in and see us early. And Matt, just one question for you. You wanted me to post something in the chat. Did you want me to post it?
I can do it. Well, I was just going to post the slide link for everybody.
Okay. All right.
There we go. Got it.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, that's all I have.
Yeah, so big difference. Again, we kind of mentioned GPA eligibility. What do you need to enter the experimental track? Those are all really important. You want to check in with your advisor. Wahida, what would you say? Once every semester?
At least once a semester, yes.
And you don't want to wait till like 2 days before the semester ends, because I imagine you all, how many students do you all work with?
Right now, the advisor to student ratio is 1,000 to 1. So 2 advisors, Jillian and Yumi, they're both seeing approximately 1,000 students if everybody comes in.
Get in early, get in often.
Yes.
Jillian, Yumi, feel free to hop on if you don't have to, no pressure. But if you hop on Mike, I imagine that, having students kind of come in frequently ends up helping them in the long run, right?
Most definitely. If you come in frequently and often, we will be able to make sure we track your academic progress, let you know if something is not looking right, if there's issues with your degree audit, we can get that fixed. So, at least once a semester, if not more. And then we are also doing a lot of intrusive advising where we will be reaching out to you if we see something that's amiss on your audit or your records.
Great. Let's talk portfolios. Remember that 30-minute mark, Wahida? We're here.
Yes, I
made it.
Good
All right.
Good job.
We always have a bet that I'm going to still go long, I'm sure. All right. So experimental animation portfolio. This is a really scary thing for all of you, I imagine. I will be very honest with you. I was a student at UCF 20 plus years ago, going through the same portfolio process that you were. Myself and my best friend, who's the best man at my wedding, Eric Sherwood. We both applied to the art animation track at the same time. I got in, he didn't. And he had to take a year, reapply the following year, and thankfully he was accepted. But Eric now is one of the highest art directors at Electronic Arts here in Orlando. He is what's called a craft director. He works on Madden, he oversees a lot of different people. So I want you to understand that if you get declined from a portfolio review, there's a couple things that could occur. One, maybe you're not ready for the track yet. And I want, somebody like Eric, in Eric's case, he wasn't artistically sound enough yet where he would have struggled if he didn't take that additional year to hone his skills. And he will admit that to this day, and we're in our 40s. The other thing that you need to factor is you can only control what you can control. With 170 people or more applying for a specific track and 90 specific spots, there is always going to be somebody better than you. And I will say that with the most gracious kind of hopefully sincerity, is that in our field, there's always someone better than me, better than Damien, better than Michael, better than Marcio, all of my colleagues as well. And that's hard, but that is something that, you can just control what you can control. And so what you can control here to apply to the portfolio, the first thing that you have is following the directions to the T, making sure that you've taken all the necessary prereqs, making sure that you have the right grades in those classes to kind of academically go, okay, I can handle this specialization, this area's workload. And, talking to your advising team to ensure that all those ducks are in the row before you even apply. And so the first thing is checking your prereqs, working with your advisor, making sure you understand if you're a transfer student, again, what degree audit do you need from Valencia or Seminole State or Miami-Dade? What are these things that you need to show to advising to help them help you? In our portfolio itself, it's going to be one singular PDF. We take submissions once a year, every spring. So we do not accept people in the fall and the spring, just the spring. In that PDF that you submit, you will have a cover letter, a selection of 5 artistic pieces for 2D design, 3D design, sculpture, or is the important word, industrial designs, no more than 5. You will have then a third section with observational drawing. These can be digital or traditional. These can be from class, from your own personal kind of practice. That's something that kind of sets us apart from other portfolio reviews. We want to see your best work. Now, again, no more than 5 pieces. The final thing is time-based media. Now, all of you hopefully have taken DIG 2030 as one of your prereqs. In that, you're learning time-based media. So we'll have students submit short clips from maybe an assignment from that class, you name it, but it's going to be submitted 1 to 3 of them in the form of a YouTube link. And we want to make sure that's public, that we can click it and view it easily. Now, one thing we do recommend that you avoid is any type of fan art. Anything that ideally is not original to your creative mind. Now, there are a few exceptions to that. Occasionally in 2D design class, you're asked to draw a still of a movie, or you're asked to recreate a painting of a famous artist. Those are perfectly fine. And I always tell people, us evaluators, your portfolio will be evaluated by 5 faculty members and usually an industry expert. And then we average all the scores. But the evaluators will be able to tell when it's a class assignment. We look at hundreds of these a year. We look at hundreds of student works, thousands of student works a year. So you're definitely going to be able to know that. And so don't fret if you're like, will they know this? Usually with fan art, people don't mount it to black foam core. And, when we see that kind of presentation, we realize it's from a design class. So again, all 4 of these sections are going to be put into one singular PDF file, and you're going to submit that via the website, the SVAD website. There will be a link that will appear that will allow you to upload that. And Wahida, please remind me our tentative dates for submission.
It's looking like the end of, I think, January, going into February.
Yeah. So typically, thank you, Wahida, end of January, early February, the committee will take a couple weeks to review those. And then what we try to do is get students' results for the good and the bad. We get students' results typically around the area, maybe either before or after spring break, right, Wahida?
Sorry, I was muted. It'll be before spring break for sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
So again, we want to make this process as easy as possible for everyone so they can kind of know how to pivot if they don't get in. And if they do get in, awesome. You'll kind of know, you'll start to discuss what the next steps are. So cover letter, I get asked all the time, what is a cover letter? A cover letter is something that we want to know who you are. We want to know why you chose experimental animation. We don't want to know why you chose graphic design or character animation, but we want to know why you chose our program. Tell us from the heart. Tell us, again, who you are, where you come from, what you're into, maybe where you see yourself working in the future, and keep this to a page. But again, don't try to kiss butt with it or anything like that. We just want to genuinely learn about you and what your passion for this program and why you chose this specific track and why you applied to it. So again, that's going to be a successful cover letter. Now, mind you, a lot of these stipulations, if you, let's say you submit 2 pages of a cover letter, that's going to deem a disqualified score on that. So please make sure you're following the directions. All of these are also listed on the SVAD webpage. So here's some examples of the second section. In the second section, we ask students to give 2D design, 3D design, sculpture, or industrial design examples. Here are some 3D design projects. Here's another frequent question we get a lot. What if I have a sculpture and I have 4 different camera shots of it? Each of these squares, the big square, right? This would count as one big image. So the croissant would be one big image of 4 different views. The bagel in this case would be one of the 5, just happens to have 4 different views. So again, keep that in mind as you're organizing your work, especially with sculpture. Sometimes we want to show different areas of that. Here's more examples of that from 3D design class. Presentation is going to be key. Margins, cropping, borders, making sure you light things very well when you take the picture of it. Poor presentation typically doesn't get people into their portfolio review. So you can see, again, a couple other ones here. Though these don't have borders, they're still very well shot. And again, just different examples. So there is no limit of how many 2D designs you need versus how many 3D designs you need. Again, it's just going to be 5 of your best works that cover any of these categories that you see in the title. So some students chose to put some narrative sculpture in theirs. Other students maybe had previous experience doing some 3D models. So they may put a SketchUp model or a Blender model that they've been working on. Other students may be painters and they may be using Photoshop or Procreate and say, hey, for 2D design, I have a really lovely painting that shows rhythm and repetition and harmony and dominance and all the principles and elements of design. It wasn't for class, but it really sums up my artistic skill. I'm going to put that in my portfolio. That is perfectly fine to be one of 5 pieces. Some students have taken online to computer art, which is a class we offer at UCF. So they may have some kind of pseudo graphic design that they choose to put in for this section, or kind of some mock-ups that they've created. All of these are perfectly acceptable. One of the constants that you saw, no matter the medium, is very polished presentation. The more you can polish your presentation, the better chances you're going to have of getting high scores. Here are some color wheels. You want to kind of check the list. You want to think about all of the principles and elements of design and ask yourself, is each of my pieces showcasing parts of those? So if you have 5 color wheels, yeah, you're going to get a strong score on color, but you may not get a strong score in line weight or some other principle of design like perspective that we won't be able to see with just 5 different color wheels, and that's all you submit. So again, here's a great example of something that's really good with line weight and perspective, and then a good resemblance of color. Shape, negative space, composition. We are looking at these from artistic competency, not that you're an expert. We don't expect anyone to be an expert. We can tell on the evaluation committee what is student work. We're really aware of that. The next section is 5 observational drawings, observational being the key. We want you to draw from life. We want you to draw what you see. So again, still lives, skeletons, rooms, spaces, all of these are going to deem really successful results for you. Some students do this in a digital format, and they're still as powerful as the traditional format. We are okay with that. Again, it's all about context and showing off your best skills. Time-based media, these can be personal work, classworks. One thing I recommend is students, you shouldn't go out of the way to create something new. This is just such a small part. I want you to look into your DIG 2030 class. I want you to think about any class, maybe you learn Premiere Pro. It can be live action. It can be animated. We'll go ahead and hit play here. So this is a little egg one. Whereas this other student put in something from their DIG 2030 class. So this is a live action kind of composition. What we're looking for is that you understand different medias. You understand how to use, drawing, you understand design, but you understand the moving image as well. Again, you're not an expert at it yet. That's why you're coming to us to kind of start that journey. But you're just kind of thinking about all these different formats because you're going to be using them quite frequently in your experience. All right, how is it evaluated? Well, 30% is going to be evaluated on your cover letter. So again, out of 100 points, 30 points will be dedicated to a cover letter. The important part is, why are you interested in this track? Not UCF, but this particular track. The 20% will be your academics. So if you come in with a 3 or a 4.0 average, you're going to get a good 20 points right off the bat. If you come in with a lower grade for classes, that point will be lower. The final category is going to be that artistic content, which is the most heftily weighted content. And each of those sections will be part of 50 points in the final decision. And then honestly, what we do is we add up all the points, average them, add them up. And then we kind of see where the numbers fall and see where number 90 is and number 1 is. And typically the first 90 that we can get are going to be the ones that are going to be offered a spot. Now, what typically happens is after we offer somebody a spot, they may have already applied to character animation. Maybe they got in. They may say, hey, I'm going to go to that program, or vice versa. And so at that point, there will be a small waiting list of people that we will then offer those additional spots to. And I can talk more about that in the Q&A section. So again, if you don't pass portfolio, it's not the end of the world. It feels that way, but it's a temporary pivot for all of you academically. You're going to start by speaking to an advisor. They will send you an email with the suggestion. You're going to ask yourself, is it right for me? Do I want to wait an additional year to the following spring to resubmit my portfolio? I always suggest students have an alternative plan. If you're submitting to character animation, submit to experimental. If you're submitting to graphic design, submit to one of the other tracks. It's completely good to have kind of different alternatives. So remember, though, each of those individual plans requires a studio art program degree. Now, there is the Art BA, which I don't believe, Wahida, require a portfolio entry track as of yet.
Yeah, the studio track for the Art BA does require a studio art portfolio.
But the visual arts management does not.
Oh, no, it does not.
Sorry, I said the wrong.
Yeah, sorry.
So again, and then the other thing is we get so many submissions, and we're currently teaching classes. We do not give individual feedback on portfolios. So we expect that you take all the lessons you learned in those prereqs class and show us what you can do. So again, rather than going through and, you could show this to someone and they could go, I love it, but there could be somebody better than you that applies. That's just how the cards fall. So again, due to the high number of submissions, we're not going to review individual portfolios, but we will have info sessions like I am today, or we're having today, where we show you successful portfolios so you can make the informed right decisions. If you need more information on this, please go ahead and visit the website. We have an FAQ section that's really nice. We're going to post this info session. I don't know if Hannah's in the room, but Hannah Estes, who's our amazing marketing coordinator, they're going to go ahead and post that on the SVAD website when we're done and processed. We have tons of social media. And before I open it up to Q&A, I've gone ahead and grabbed some portfolios because I imagine you'd want to see how people submit them. So these are a couple of successful portfolios from last semester. I've redacted the names to protect student identities, but you're going to see kind of just the presentation that the students have created. So this particular student started with their cover letter in their PDF. And I'm not going to share these because this is their personal kind of stuff. They put headers, which I think is really nice. Visually organize your work. Let us know what we're looking at. They're showing us a little bit of, again, their artwork. They're telling us how they made it. Again, great communication here, showing us some color theory, some sculptural work, kind of checking all those boxes. Here's some digital artwork that they were proud of, some sequential narrative. Then they have their drawing section. A little bit of a cropping issue here, but not terrible, only one. So mistakes are okay, they do happen. So you can see kind of the life drawing, I know who this student is immediately because I can see their self-portraits. And then they have some time-based media. In this case, they've dabbled in Blender, so they've decided to put that in. And let's see if I can open that. Just a fun little sketchy. I can tell you right now, this particular student has come a long way since this animation. It's so cool to see that. I'll have to bring that up to them when I see them this week. So that's one of them. And again, they chose to only submit one of the 3 opportunities. All right, let's turn some of this off. There we go. And here's another one. Different section titles, cover letter. They've done some 3D modeling, some expression sheets. And again, I want to open it up for the last 10 minutes to Q&A. So I'm going to kind of just scan these and let you see just some of the work. You can rewatch the video and slow it down if need be. Showing hands, line quality, fabric, anatomy is really great. There's a digital artwork in that section. Then they have time-based media. They also chose to just include one, which is perfectly fine. And go to this one. This one did not have a cover page. It did not. These are successful entries, by the way. So they chose not to have a cover page. It did not obviously affect the outcome, but they still labeled the work very clearly for us to see. So everyone's going to approach this in a slightly different manner, depending on your ability to create a PDF, to your ability to kind of organize works. But you can see the results of the work show competency. They've decided to have 2 time arts animations. And again, we're going to open it up for questions just in a second. So I'm going to just kind of scan through here. So all different types of artwork. This is intermediate painting. That's pretty amazing. That's a painting. It can be classwork. It can be work you've done on your own. So many students tell me, well, when I took drawing class, I was at a state college and I know a lot more about drawing now and I have better works. Can I include those? Absolutely. It does not have to be from a class, but it should still show the competency that you understand vanishing point, perspective, proportion, again, scale, variety of scale. They have 2 options there. And then the final one, and then we'll open it up to questions just to kind of give you an idea. You can see they all have different styles to them, but all of them are showing clean, crisp presentation. Labeling is happening. We're not tilting our head. There's not like a sideways image where we have to keep tilting our head to find them. Some students in these, all these were successful. Some were better drawers than others. Some were better 2D designers or color theorists than others, but again, all competent and strong. They've decided to have 3 of the 3, obviously 3 of 3 choices here. All right, so we can kind of dive into those a little bit during the Q&A part, but I'm going to open it up to, I'm going to stop my share so I can kind of see the chat as we work. Are there any questions that maybe we didn't cover? And the way we'll do this, I see Kisa or Kessa, one of the 2, but go ahead and put your virtual hand up and we're going to get them in order. And then if you have a question in the chat, feel free to drop that in as well. So I'm going to just go by my participants menu here and go from there.
Hey, Matt, before you get started, there was a question in the chat from Kevin McLean.
Yeah, I see.
Okay.
Yeah, so PC recommendations, definitely you know, something that is a gaming ready PC, a VR ready PC, NVIDIA graphics cards. If you go to Adobe or even Autodesk's websites, they'll kind of tell you what graphics cards are good that they recommend versus aren't good, that they don't recommend. So again, you're looking at something that could, again, cost you $900 to a couple $1,000, depending on how much you invest. And so I have students who really want to do 3D animation, and they're like, you know what? I'm going all in and I'm having a really powerful computer. And then other students who go, I just want to do 2D stuff. I don't really need the render power. So I'm going to kind of go on more of the low end of things. But yeah, definitely something with a NVIDIA graphics card typically works pretty well. So if it doesn't have that, it doesn't mean it won't work. It just means that we've noticed, those things. All right. Let's see. Kisa, I'm gonna say your name wrong, but I saw your hand go up first, but it got kind of buried. So I'll go ahead and start with you, and then I'll go down my list. And please correct me how to pronounce your name.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my name's Kessa, but that's okay.
Kessa, I played it. I am gonna worry about it. I do this every session. Wahida knows, the advising team's laughing at me. Kessa, go ahead, Kessa.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Okay, so I have two pretty quick questions. The first one is for the observational drawings.
Mhm.
If you have a piece that's made up of like multiple pieces of paper, does that count as like one image, or does each piece of paper count as an image?
If it's in one rectangle on the PDF, it counts as one thing.
Okay.
So if that's hopefully the best way I can describe it to help kind of ease your worry on that one. If you just gave me 4 very individual pictures, I count them 4. But if it's very clearly in a box and they're like, here's all these different drawings, I would count it as one piece.
Yeah,
like
if they look like they belong together, I guess.
Yeah, that would be one. Absolutely. Great question.
And then is there a specific time frame that you guys have as to when works need to be made? Because I know for me specifically, like I tested out in 2D design, so I'm going to use some older stuff for that.
Sure. I will never know. That's what I like to tell students. So if you feel you're still competent with it, or if that's up to you. That's one thing when we made this portfolio review, we understand that every student's situation is unique. And somebody like yourself who may have clept out of something. So yeah, we want to give you the opportunity just to put your best work forward, but not have it from one particular place.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to say Brianna. Brianna, go ahead.
You said it correctly.
Yes. All right. What can I do for you?
So I came from another college, Miami-Dade, for 2 years for game art and animation. So I'm very familiar with doing digital media and 3D work. And I got the opportunity to work on a project produced by Disney Junior.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. I wanted to know about for 3D work, right? Correct. Because I've done 3D modeling and also 3D animation, animating the model that I was given. Can project works that you worked on with a team be used in your portfolio, since you were involved in, like, let's say I was involved in animating this character. I didn't model this character, but I did animate that character to do that action.
So one thing, and that's when, like, you saw a lot of the students in the PDFs that brought up had captions or kind of subtext underneath the works. If you're going to include something like that, you want to make it just like you did for us right now, very clear on what you did and what you didn't do. So just how you said it, I did not model this. I made the arm move up and down, or I made it walk. Be very overly clear, almost to a point where you kind of giggle at it because you're being like, this is like too clear, but that is the best way for that. Now, in your particular case, if you didn't put that in, right? If you didn't tell us any other information, we watch it, we may go, oh, that's plagiarized work. So communication is going to be the key in any industry, but how you just described it to us, I would write that. And I would say, I'm including this work. This is from this. And, there's no page limit on the time art piece, so if you have to write a paragraph, convey it and contextualize it. Absolutely.
Okay. And also, is unfinished work not frowned upon? Let's say I have a time-based media of an animation, but it's not finished. It's an automatic per
Sure.
se.
Whatever your best work is that you feel. So if there's nothing better than that, right, put it in.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like unfinished work is not frowned upon.
Well, we wouldn't know if it's unfinished, right? So
Okay.
so you know, you may go, oh, that's missing, but we're just kind of looking at it from a foundational standpoint. So I wouldn't dwell in the caption that it's unfinished. You know, if it's an animatic, we can kind of tell, you know, there's different levels of animatics. And, you know, we're going to be looking at, you know, what are your editing skills? What are your pacing skills? What, you know, do you have, you know, maybe you submit something to me and it's really pixelated unintentionally. That's going to be a red flag, right? I'll go, ooh, they don't see that that's pixelated. So things like that. But yeah, I mean, whatever your work that you have, that's your best work, please submit that.
Oh, okay. So like the I don't know, like the idea is what is your best work, and you put forth in your portfolio your best work that you
Yeah.
believe is great. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and so again, it's kind of what you can control and what you can't control. You know, everyone else is going to be doing the same thing. So, you know, that's my suggestion for everyone. Put your best work in, take your shot at that 90, and hopefully you fall in the between 1 and 90, right? That's the goal. But you can't, you
Okay.
know, you don't know who else is applying. And so that's, you know, that's why you can focus on when you're like, this is the best thing I've done. That's something you can control.
Okay. And one more question. I'm sorry if I'm taking so much time. Let's say for 2D design, like 2D illustrations, I during my time doing the Disney Junior project, I was the lead character designer, and I have character designs of my own work, not the character that was used for the project, because it's his character. Is it possible to, for 2D design, show that I can create character sheets and put that in my portfolio?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Great. All right. I have Mariel next.
Can you hear
Mariel.
me?
Yeah, go ahead, Mariel.
Okay, sorry. For the 2D design portion, can we put preliminary work such as thumbnails, notans, and color explorations alongside our 2D final piece? Or do you just want us to have a 2D final piece as a standalone?
I would put the just the final piece. Yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
process works, breakdowns of the project, we don't want to see that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And
Good
then,
question.
thank you. And for our observational work, I did a perspective piece that I did digitally, and I used the perspective grid in the program. I was wondering if that may not be received well during the assessment of the portfolio.
I don't know. I would have to
Okay.
see the piece, but again, if it's something that like we aren't there when you're creating it, so we don't really have like we shouldn't really have that, if that makes sense, that we probably wouldn't look at it and be like, there's a perspective grid right there. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
yeah, no worries. All right, Alana.
Hello. Okay. So about the time-based media, is
Mhm.
there a time limit length?
Absolutely. So that can be found on the experimental animation website. I believe it's 1 to 2 minutes or 1 to 3 minutes, one of the two. Let me click on that real quick.
I did hear it was 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it's going to be listed on that initial portfolio link. So There it is, portfolio review. And let's do, what should I put in? I'll give you an answer. Yeah, 3 minutes or less for each piece.
Oh, wait, so you could have 3 pieces and each of them be 3 minutes and that would
Mhm.
count?
Now, I'd be careful of that because, you know, when we're looking at like 170 of these, you know, we're going to kind of know in the first couple seconds, honestly, like what you're going to have. So if you're having like 9 minutes of footage for us to walk through, be prepared because it could actually hurt you. So what I would do is curate those to the best parts of those clips. So put your best foot forward, right? Like I'd rather see 10 to 30 seconds of amazing footage than, you know, 9 minutes of just okay footage.
Okay, I got that.
Yeah.
So, but one of them can't be over than 3 minutes, over the
No.
3 minutes.
No.
All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I have Nicole, and we're going to end with Nicole because my battery's about to run out, figuratively and literally.
Hi.
But Nicole, last question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah.
Hi, I have several questions. The first one I have is in regards to the classes, the core classes, not the electives. So do you have any that is just by any chance any offer during summer? I'm asking mainly to prepare for housing, so I don't have to like, do the summer one.
Sure. Yeah. The summer classes ultimately depends on budget with the university. So it kind of is kind of a top-down element. There have been, and that's what I can speak toward, there have been design fundamental classes offered in the summer period. So 2D design, 3D design, design intensive. There's never a guarantee with the state university that they will or won't run those. And so Wahida, I think I answered that somewhat decently.
Yeah.
We're hopeful that there will be those core fundamentals, but it's not always a guarantee.
Right.
Okay. The next question is, you mentioned for the second year, students will pick like a specialization, and I was wondering, how do you help students that struggle to pick a specialization for the second year?
All the classes that kind of build up to the second year build toward that. So we have those discussions from the very first junior semester professional practice class about who are you, what do you love, what don't you love, where do you see yourself, and we start that journey of introspective of kind of looking into yourself and figuring out who you are right away from the beginning. So by the time you're a senior, if you still don't have an idea of that, that's typically on the student. But if you've started early on and kind of trusted the process, it typically works out.
Okay. The next question I have is for individuals that already have their hardware in terms of like their PC, whether it's built by themselves or they just bought it from a store. Is it possible to have a individual that could kind of like verify if your computer is up to standards?
So we don't serve as IT support. So one thing that you can do on your own is look at the software you're going to be using, which we provided in that slideshow, and kind of see if that software runs on the specs of your machine. So Autodesk and Adobe and Toon Boom, they all have hardware specification, usually one-page PDFs that you can kind of look at and kind of determine, is your IT up to snuff?
Okay. And speaking of software, I wanted to ask, I know you mentioned Maya is free, but the rest as students, we are responsible for paying for the subscription for Adobe and such, right? That will not be for free, correct?
Yes, that is your responsibility. So think of it as a textbook.
Okay. So I was wondering in regards to the portfolio, will there be a session maybe similar to this, like Zoom or maybe one-on-one, I'm not sure, where we will have our portfolio reviewed before submission? Is that
We
okay?
do not do individual portfolio reviews due to the amount of submissions. So we're going to have another session, most likely in early spring in January. That kind of is just another Q&A. But what we'd like to see, and that's why we kind of show the reviews on these, we'd like to see students build off of the information that we give them in these sessions and kind of make the determination for themselves, kind of using that, those abilities to kind of build off that.
Okay, and my last question is also similar to Brianna's, where I too was part of the capstone project for Miami-Dade with Nickelodeon. And I do have, since it's a 2-minute short where we have multiple animators there, and I did have a character which I animated and I did the character design for. You mentioned that it's okay to turn that. I just want to double check. It's okay to turn that in as long as we specify what parts we animated and then of course what character designs we did, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And just be aware that when you all start turning in group projects, even though they're really great, you may cancel each other out too.
Okay.
So it's something to kind of think about.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions.
Awesome. All right. Any other questions? I put my other phone on just in case I get kicked out here, but
I was just going to say, what's going on, Matt? I see you two places.
I'm here twice. Here I am. Are there any other resources for helping? Kevin, you have the link to the experimental animation website. You have this entire starting point with this slideshow where we're giving you examples of portfolios, tons of examples of student works that were successful. And then at that point, we tell students that's what makes it an upper level degree. You have to make those calls. You have to take the information provided to you and make these determinations. Cool. Kessa.
All right, so I was just going to ask this if we had time, but what would you suggest for people who may be interested in like other time-intensive academic things? For example, I'm very heavily considering minoring in music, and I'm not out here practicing 5 hours a day, but it is still a time-intensive thing. Do you have any recommendations for people who just might be taking on a lot, I guess?
So kind of in general, this track will be 40 hours a week. So you can imagine 40 to 50 hours every week. This is the track. That doesn't change. There are only so many hours in a week. And so I never want to deter a student from kind of exploring all of their passions, but it's kind of the old adage, when you go to a buffet and fill your plate, you're going to be hurting later if you try to eat too much food. So you have to make the call where your heart really lies. A lot of students struggle without jobs filling 50 hours worth of work. And that's kind of, when I say 50 hours, that's assuming it clicks with you right away. So just be mindful of that. I can't make that call for you. And, again, you can ask even somebody who professionally juggles. The more stuff they add to juggling, the harder it is. And the likelihood that something's going to kind of crash and fall, it's true. It doesn't mean you shouldn't pursue your dreams. It's just, I like the question that you're asking, but yeah, you definitely want to kind of think about that time requirement. And any major, again, is going to be about 40 to 50 hours a week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to switch to my phone real quick here. So hold on until we get the next question.
Matt, while you're doing that, if I can just add to Kessa's,
Please add.
Yeah, to Kessa's question. A lot of times the courses that you will have to take for your minor and your major may conflict with each other. So you would want to be aware of that also if you're planning to do like a minor in music or any other areas. And then, of course, your priority should be your major course because those are lockstep and cohorted. So just keep that in mind also.
And the emerging media doesn't even require a minor in the first place, right?
It does not, no.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I can't see my participants list. So who else? Wahida, maybe. Actually, we did Nicole. Daniela?
Daniela, yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hey, Daniela.
Hi. All right, I have three questions real quick. First, for the observational section of the portfolio, is it acceptable to put multiple gesture drawings as a single piece?
Not as a single piece. I mean, it would be dependent. If they're on the same piece of paper, absolutely. If they were done in kind of one sitting on one piece of paper, sure, that's perfectly fine. But if they were done in kind of all these different sessions and different, like maybe over the course of the semester, that would count as multiple pieces.
What if they were made in like a single session, but on different pieces of paper?
I would still probably start leaning toward them being separate pieces.
Okay, so you can only take multiple pictures of a piece if it's a sculpture, if it's 3D then.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
something with culture, right? You want to see it from all sides. You know, it gives you, some people like don't want to show us the other side of the sculpture, which is fine because maybe they were like, anything with that. But yeah, you don't want to kind of overload that. And something with gestural drawings, one or two of them is fine. Again, you want to kind of think of the other principles and elements of design, like line quality, weight, perspective, proportion, variety of scale, visual measurement, all of those things. So your other pieces, the other four pieces after the gesture drawing, you want to make sure that those are also represented in your portfolio.
Right. So talking about that, would you recommend actually putting gestural drawings in your portfolio, or would it be better to put more um put more pieces with like more detail, like you know what I mean?
Put your best work
No
in.
gesturals.
Yeah, it really depends. If some people, their gesturals are going to be their best work and they should put them in. Other people may have a slew of other things that they want to put in and that they deem, more competent, showing kind of those principles and elements. So it really, that is a hard question to directly answer because it differs per student, right? Everyone has strengths and weaknesses at different areas.
Yeah, it depends. Okay. My second question is, if we have any other like quick questions about the portfolio, is there like maybe an email we could send an email to or something like that?
So we will do another info session in January.
Okay.
We highly recommend that all the students here rewatch this info session and also look at the websites that we provided to kind of build up kind of that knowledge base. As I mentioned, we will not be doing individual portfolio reviews. So a lot of students will think to come and email and go, what if I did this versus that? What if I did? And that's natural. That happens. But just know we are not giving individual feedback like that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I have just one last question, but this is more for the advisors. Um, because I was accepted into UCF in the spring, so I'm basically applying for the portfolio a semester early. So I was wondering if that could affect the course sequencing that you were mentioning.
No, it will not. Once you're ready, if you were accepted into the portfolio, into the program after submitting your portfolio, you will start in the fall semester. So, and in 2026, but there is no way to like speed that up or slow it down. Is that
All right.
your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, last question, and then we will be signing off. Sophia, last but not least.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Sophia.
Hi. So I have a little bit of a concern, especially for the time-based portion and the 3D portion. I have a lot of 2D pieces. That's basically what I've been working on my whole life. But I have no like prior experience to 3D or time-based media, and basically my only form of that would be like for the portfolio. Would my previous experience be taken into account like for my pieces, or is it just like compared to everyone, like which ones are better?
So part of your prereqs is you're required to have a 3D-dimensional or a 3D design class. And then also a DIG 2030 fundamentals of video course as well is in there. So there, those two courses should suffice for that. But yeah, individual circumstances like that wouldn't kind of play a part. So some students may not have kept the work from those classes, or maybe for whatever reason, their teacher didn't teach that. We can't really control that situation. So some students choose not to apply. Other students say, hey, I'm going to make some work. I think I can make it before the spring deadline, or maybe I have to wait another year to kind of build up that portfolio to have a best shot. And so that really comes down to you as an individual. We're not recommending one way or versus the other, but we're just what I'm doing now is just giving you all those options.
Okay. And I think that this is kind of a redundant question. But at least like for the observational drawings, do we need to show a reference, like what we use as a reference for observational drawing, or just
no,
put the drawing?
just the drawing, right? Like the examples I showed, you saw it was just a singular drawing of a room or the singular. So we can the committee are all artists. They're going to be able to tell perspective, vanishing point, if something's askew, if something is, if there's a lack of line quality. We're looking at from formalistic elements. And so observational is really important. I mean, some students may say, I drew from a photograph. We don't know if that's true or not. We're still looking at the formalistic, elements behind that, not necessarily the content, if that makes sense. Pending a complete cartoon, right? But we're kind of looking like, can you look at something and put it on paper to look like there's depth?
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right, with that said, thank you everyone for joining us. We will be processing this link and getting it up on the experimental animation website, or the SVAD website, I should say. So thank you, Hannah, for doing that. We will see all of you. Maybe you will rejoin us in our January info session. We'll just keep that one as a Q&A for any last minute questions, but we wish you all the best of luck. And again, thanks for your interest in our track. All right, everybody. Have a great one. Thanks, SVAD team.